Missed an episode of your favorite podcast? Choose from over a decade of content in our archives, not just the latest episode. All free at GCNlive.com.
This is your call to action. Get prepared, America. Economy, survival, energy, disasters. This is USAPrepares.com. Informative radio, educational radio. Interact now by emailing instructor@usaprepares.com or text at 434-390-7953. Class, please take your seats. Now, your instructor, Vincent Finelli.
6-582-9933. And there's a telephone listen line number that is working, but it's only live. So you can't listen whenever you want and get, a rolling 24 hours or a nonstop loop for 24 hours. It's just live when we're live. Now, there are other programs on there when we are not on the air, but here's the number when we're live, 9 through 11 a.m. Central Time, 712-770-9418, 712-770-9418. I don't know who's engineering the broadcast this morning, but Dr. Shealy, are you there?
I am here.
Well, it's great to hear your voice. It's great. And I don't know if you heard me in this morning. I connect and I go, I'm here. Hello? Anybody home?
So that's what I say when I connect.
Maybe. So I just kind of ramble and I say things like, geez, Monday. Oh, I guess, no, I'm not. Am I supposed to hear? No, I'm not supposed to hear. And that's what I do. Those kind of things until somebody answers. But no one answered today, so I had no idea if you were going to be with us or not. But I'm so glad you're here. So, Dr. Shealy, do you have anything that you'd like to share with us this morning before?
Well, I think it is interesting that there are apparent some kind of semi-revolution against the Ayatollah in Iran.
Yeah, right. Isn't that nice?
Can't be bad enough for me. I mean, the Ayatollah has been a problem since Jimmy Carter.
Right. That's exactly right. Well, not only that, we learned that, it was an accident. We didn't mean to shoot that plane down and kill all those people. And now the Iranians don't trust their own government, which is kind of wonderful. And they want death to liars is what they're saying. And I assume they're talking about the Ayatollah and his regime. So that's kind of neat. And then, a little farther away down the road would be England. And we've got the Duke of Sussex and the Duchess of Sussex. And they are like the poster children for the millennials. They don't know what they want. They doublespeak. They say, we want your money, but we don't want to work for it. We want your money, but we don't want to work. We want the title, but we want independence. We want to have financial independence. Really, what kind of skills do they have? So she, Meghan, is an impersonator, also known as an actress. Okay, so that's what she does. And if you get a chance to hear her and watch her speak, she answers, or she makes a statement and ends it with a question mark. And she's not very sure of herself. And from what we've been reading here at the farm, it seems that she is unhappy with, being the center of attention, but yet she wants to be the center of attention. But not too much, but yes, no, yeah, well, maybe. She is...
She sounds almost as bad as Cortez.
Yeah. Isn't this amazing that, so she gets everything she wants, she bags the, royalty, and so she marries into it, she quickly has a child. 20 months later, after the wedding, which I think cost $30 million in U.S. Federal Reserve notes, she's not happy, and she can't take the pressure, so she wants out. And so the royals are embroiled in a scandal. We've got Andrew, the pedophile. We've got Diana, who was murdered. because she was, some people think, I think because she was exposing the landmines and how criminal it is to plant landmines and people getting blown to bits. And so she was showcasing how bad this was. So, she had to go and so here we have Harry.
But Vince, that the reason is quite obvious. The Queen is the head of the most evil empire in the history of the world, the Committee of 300.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, and she's posed as a sweet lady.
Well, all I could say is she is the top of the evil empire. That's it. And that means that royalty sucks beyond anything in any other country.
So she has the Royal Mint, right, where they stamp out tokens. She has the Royal Navy. She has the Royal Air Force, right?
And the only thing and interestingly, the Bank of England is an independent country sitting in the middle of London. It has the same independence as the Vatican.
Mm-hmm.
And it is run by
London is a city-state. London is a city-state. The Vatican is a city-state. And Washington, D.C. is a city-state, right?
Yep. And equal deep state evil.
Mm-hmm. And so people like that tell other people to come after us and steal from us, take our hard work. Dr. Shealy, I was talking with John Statmiller and Steve Elkins over the weekend, and I mentioned that there's some good news in all this bad news. We're not going to be having as many traffic jams as we used to in the rural roads of United States, and that's because beef prices are so low that I don't see farmers being able to hang on. And let me give you an example. So we sold a few cows from our farm last Thursday at the market, brought them to the market, and that's where buyers and sellers meet, and allegedly fair prices are supposed to be achieved. The highest now for slaughter cows. These are cows that are older, and they are about ready to be turned into food. The highest price cow at this market. So, number one, there's only one cow that was the highest price. This cow was it, and it sold for 77 cents a pound.
Wow.
The lowest price cows, hang on. It gets way worse than that. The lowest price cow sold for 10 cents a pound.
Oh, you got to be kidding.
10 cents.
Now,
no, I'm not.
When I
I'm
was
not
a
kidding.
child, before anybody who listened to us probably was born, I'm talking about in the early to mid 40s of the last century. My father owned a grocery store and ran the meat market, and he used to take me to sales, and I believe that they would have gone for 20 to 25 cents a pound back then.
Right. That's right. Well, the number one cow literally sold for 70 cents a pound, 77. And then the next one, I believe, was, down around, mid 70s to low 70s. And then they dropped all the way down to 10 cents a pound, which, if you think about it, that if you're just bringing one cow to market, just one, and you have a truck and you bring 1,000-pound cow, you probably have recouped the fuel that it took to get the cow to the market without the amortization of the truck and the trailer, and the tires and all that stuff. And then there's there are fees on top of that. So you get to pay, if you sell one of these cows, you get to pay for the hay that the cow eats overnight. So you bring it on Wednesday, sell it on Thursday. So, and then there's the insurance. And then there's the beef marketing program. And these are all fees. And then there are the veterinarian fees. And then there's fee after fee after fee after fee. There's probably 7 or 8 fees that go on top of the sale. So that gets deducted from the 10 cents per pound or the 77 cents per pound. So literally the average price, as I was able to determine, because I looked at the sales, and from top to bottom, I looked at all the numbers, 33.5 cents was the average price per pound. It might have been 34.5, but I believe it's 33.5 cents per pound. So that tells me that, a bale of hay, just a one round bale of hay is $35 at the absolute lowest price you can find it if it's edible. And we go through here at our farm, typically 2 or 3 bales a day. So we go through, easily $100 worth of hay a day. And so the cow, if we got average, we got 33.5 cents a pound. So I just wanted to say that this is the reality. And so the little guys are getting absolutely hammered. And I don't think they're going to be able to hang on. So when the tax man comes and the tax man says, y'all owe us for the real estate taxes for your farm. And the farmer says, are you kidding? We can't sell our product for even the cost of production. We're below cost of production. And you want what? So what does that mean when the government, the county government start to steal farms? That's when the shooting starts. That's when the shooting starts. So I'm not advocating it. I'm just saying that seems plain as day to me that when the tax man comes and says, yeah, y'all been working really hard on your farm and we appreciate that. And you're telling us you don't have enough to pay, what you used to pay. Yeah, that's what we're saying. That's when the shooting starts. When the government starts stealing property. And what do they do with it once they steal it? Well, they sell it to their closest friends on the courthouse steps. So there are going to be some real hard feelings. Now, it used to be that farmers would work together. During the first Great Depression, when the banks would foreclose on farms, then they would sell them at auctions. But what would happen is the neighbors would all agree. They'd say, okay, the Jones farm is going to be sold to the highest bidder, so we're all going to agree that we're only going to pay. And we'll bid, but we're going to give it back to the Joneses. But we're only going to bid just pennies on the dollar because we're going to get that farm back for them. That's what used to happen. I don't think that's going to happen anymore. I think what's going to happen is people are going to want to expand their holdings and buy farms up for pennies on the dollar by bidding on them so that the original owner can't get it back. That's what I think is going to happen. Dr. Shealy, does that make any sense to you, or does that seem...
Well, it doesn't make sense, but it makes sense in what you're saying, but it doesn't make sense that it's happening.
Correct. Okay, when we come back, Dr. Shealy, can we talk about... I've gotten some comments off air about why does urine smell more in the morning, industrial strength in the morning, and sleeping. Is it important to have regular sleeping hours, and turmeric? We'll be right back. The Excel report right in front of me. So just to recap, this is cow prices, slaughter cow prices at the market last Thursday. Number one cow, 77 cents. Next one down, 73.5 cents. Next one, 71 cents. That kind of drops to the 69, 68, 63, 58, 52, 47, 45, 40, 35, 20, 15, and finally 10 cents a pound. So right in front of me, there it is. So you ought to be able to get some ground beef relatively inexpensively soon. And I would think it's going to hit the market in a few weeks. And if it doesn't, the middlemen are taking their share out of it because the farmer's not getting it. We hit a few years ago, maybe 4 years ago, beef prices were about $3 a pound. $3 a pound. And now they're a quarter of it or less than that. Dr. Shealy, urine, I was on the phone over the last few weeks with a number of people who mentioned that urine smells more in the morning. Is there a reason for that, or is that abnormal?
I don't know. I have to admit, I've never smelled my own urine any time of day or night. I'm sorry.
Oh, really? Well, shoot. I was going to do a little bit of a report on Gwyneth Paltrow. She's an actri from Hollywood, and she is selling this stuff. And I have to do a little more research, but it's. I believe the label on it is "This is what my vagina smells like."
Oh,
she's selling this, and she's sold out. She's sold out. Now, if that doesn't tell you where we're going,
that makes me want to throw up.
Can you imagine her? Yeah, she's the gal that showed up during the Clinton regime, and in a see-through. Well, she wore a see-through dress, and Hillary is like, "Oh my, oh my, oh my," and maybe it's because Hillary has been reported to be homosexual. Maybe that's why she was saying, "Oh my." But anyway, literally, I'll do a little more research about Gwyneth Paltrow, and I'll tell you the rest of the story a little later in the broadcast. But yeah, it's true. So, does the color of urine tell us anything? So, for example, if one has vitamin B complex, it's a brighter yellow, more like a highway sign. Yeah,
and it's a more concentrated yellow if you're dehydrated.
Okay. So when you're at the hospital and you see these guys that have, or gals that have catheters, you see this dark urine, that says they're dehydrated?
Yep.
Okay. So how long does it take from the time how does a person know if they're dehydrated? What about that pinching of the skin right by the wrist and watching, pinching it and seeing how long it takes to come back to normal?
That probably is true. Unless you're overweight, you're fat, then that doesn't work at all. And in older people, and that must be past 87 at least, it's not going to work as well either.
Okay. All right. So how long does it here it is. Here it is. I just typed Gwyneth, Gwen, let's see, Gwyneth. Gwyneth Paltrow's Goop, Goop, shop is selling a candle called Smells Like My Vagina. Now that's, I just want it. Oh, and here it is. Here it is. It's a candle, and it says, there's a label on it, and the label says, "This smells like my vagina." Now, that's how far we have fallen, class. So there's this gal that, you might say she's pretty. She's not young. It's a middle-aged gal, and this is what she has stooped to in order to make money. And worse than that, way worse than that, is people are buying this, and it's sold out.
And I bet it costs a lot more than a pound of beef.
Oh, absolutely. Can you imagine? So, I'm speechless. It's $75. $75 for a candle. So get them while you still can, class. So Gwyneth Paltrow is manufacturing these candles, and right on the outside of the candle is a label that says, "This smells like my vagina." Now, I would not allow her to outdo USA Prepares. So I just thought about, we could make some candles, Dr. Shealy, and it could be down on the farm, organic Black Angus scented candles. What do you think?
Actually, from my point of view, if you did their manure, it would be better than hers.
Well, it's organic. I mean, we could take some paraffin, a little beeswax, mix that together with some pure organic Black Angus cow poop, and gosh, it's got to be a hit. Got to be a hit. So, those New York City apartments could smell just like the barnyard.
Out on the farm.
Okay. So, sleeping, Dr. Shealy. When people sleep, my wife likes to get up at the same time every day, no matter what. No matter how tired we are, get up at the same time. And then if you want to take a nap later, fine. But you got to get up at the same time every day. Is there some merit to that? Or if you're really, really tired, should you sleep a little longer and get out of sync with your normal routine?
Well, I think it's more important to get a minimum of 7 hours of sleep than the exact time at which you wake up. On the other hand, our rhythm is very individual to some people.
Mm-hmm.
Now, personally, I like 8 hours of sleep every night, and I am a bear if I don't get it.
Mm-hmm. No, I'm with you. I like 8, and a couple things that we do here at the farm. Number one, we like to get 8 hours, but also we don't like to work the farm at night. And I think it's dangerous. Absolutely. I see guys out there with their lights on their tractors, but it's really dangerous for everything out there, every living thing, because at night, that's when the birds are sleeping. That's when, the wild animals are sleeping. You can run them over and cut them up and get hurt because you can't see as well at night. The holes in the ground that animals dig. It's really dangerous. So we like to sleep during normal sleeping hours, and we like to be awake during the daylight. That's what we like to do. And we work the farm during the daylight. And I have a feeling that you're the same way. You don't like to be out at night when it's much safer to be out during the day.
Absolutely. And, by the way, people who sleep 6 or less hours per night, average, function at the level of slightly drunk. There are more automobile hours by people who got less than 7 hours of sleep than there are from alcohol. More
accidents. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm seeing drivers that are absolutely crazy. I was at a gas station, and I went into the gas station to wash my hands, and so I was pulling into the spot past the pumps near the entrance to this kind of like a convenience store gas station, lots of parking spaces, but they were taking a fuel delivery. They had a tractor trailer blocking most of the parking spaces. There was only a few. So I waited my turn, and the driver who was in one space pulled out, and I was pulling in. And just as I was pulling in, this gal, this millennial, was getting into the passenger side of the vehicle she was in. So she's getting into the passenger side. She's got her phone in her hand, and she's talking on the phone. So she opens the door to get in. She sits down and leaves the door open. So there's only one parking space, and I'm pulling in, and she's got the door open. She's got her, she's sitting in the seat inside the car, in the passenger seat, with the door open, totally oblivious that I'm pulling in. Totally oblivious. Now, she saw me pulling in, probably out of the corner of her eye, but she wasn't really paying attention because she was on the phone, and she just sat there and started talking. So I inched up, and then she could hear the roar of the engine, not that I'm racing the engine, just, the normal sound of the engine. And then she decides to close the door. So I got out of the car, and as I was walking in, she had these dark windows so you couldn't see. And so I went to her front window, and I looked at her. I said, if you got off the phone, you wouldn't be holding us up.
Oh, man, I love you.
And so I came out of the gas station, and there she was yelling at me. How dare I? How dare I tell her that? Jeez, that's where we are today. And I have my New Year's resolution was last year and this year that I will increase my level of intolerance. And I'm doing it. I'm absolutely doing it. When I see something I don't like that I think is wrong by normal standards, I'm going to say something. And I have been. And it's generally not received too well. It really isn't. Because the people who are doing these offensive things, the people who are me first, they think they're right. They have a right to, and they have a right to be happy. Dr. Shealy, are you running into young people who say that they have a right to be happy? I don't get it.
They don't come to my office.
Okay. All right. Well, speaking of young people, so a Boston college student had the measles. And so he decides that he's going to travel. And he went through Logan International Airport, and he went to more than 10 Boston businesses and campus buildings and dormitories. And now they feel that this guy who had the measles had been in contact with about 1,200 people. With other people, so he might have infected them. Now, I don't know if I'm concerned about measles so much, but I am concerned about infectious diseases that people could be carrying, and totally unconcerned about how it could impact other people. And because of that, I don't want to fly. I don't want to go where people typically go. I don't want to go to restaurants if I absolutely don't have to. I don't want to do it. I don't want to go out in public. I want to be almost a recluse. Are you concerned about people traveling and potentially infecting other people because of their carelessness and recklessness?
Oh, of course.
And ignorance. What do we do about it? I mean,
and actually, to me, now you're getting into true ethics. In my opinion, people have a responsibility not to harm other people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They need not to spread their junk. Period.
Mm-hmm. But I don't think they're as concerned as they might have been years ago.
Oh, I agree.
I agree. When we were in school years ago, if we had something, our parents would keep us home for the benefit of the others, as well as for, our ability to heal. But our parents would keep us out of school.
Yeah, I definitely remember. I would think I would have been either 6 or 7. I had whooping cough. Mm-hmm. I think this was before the routine percussive vaccination. I had a wonderful 10 days at home, sitting on the back stairs, in the sun, and my father got me a pet billy goat for a present while I had whooping cough.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. How about turmeric, Dr. Shealy? Do you like the consumption of turmeric as an anti-inflammatory?
Absolutely. I think it is one of the best, and it works better if you put some black pepper or pepperine with it.
Okay, that'll be for lunch. So turmeric and black pepper.
Yeah.
Does it have to be black? Can it be white or green?
Now you're going to send me back to the literature. I don't know.
Okay.
I only know about black pepper, but I'll look it up.
Well, the reason I ask is our son bought some green pepper. We have a son who likes unusual things, unusual antiques, unusual historical items, and he brings home. We have a pepper grinder, but it was populated with black pepper. And he saw this, and he thought, well, let's try this. And it was on sale, so it's here. And I really like the green pepper. I really do. And we have, we got as a gift many, many years ago, a grinder, and it had white and black and red and green peppercorns. So they're all in there, and you could see them as you ground them. And it was really kind of nice, but I really like the green. Well, I like the white, too. I like them all. I really do. Okay, so I'm going to cook up something with turmeric and black pepper.
White pepper also has pepperine.
Okay, so it's the pepperine that we're concerned.
Yes.
To make sure we have it. Okay. Are there different amounts, percentages, or units?
I haven't been able to get that far yet.
Okay. Okay. All right. So I'm going to make something with turmeric and black pepper for lunch after the broadcast. And so if we reduce our our inflammation, Dr. Shealy? Are we generally going to be more healthy? Are we going to have more energy? Are we going to live longer by reducing inflammation?
All of the above.
Okay. So should turmeric be something that we should consume every day?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Do you cook with turmeric, or do you just take it as a supplement?
I cook with it sometimes, but I actually take a slightly rounded teaspoon every morning in my slush.
Okay. I've never consumed that much. Okay. All right. I bought one of those capsule filling machines, and I bought some gelatin capsules. And I was going to fill my own because I bought some bulk turmeric. And have you ever made any of your own capsules and filled them with one of those machines? Okay.
No.
It's like a piece of plastic, a sheet of plastic. Let's say it's 3/8 of an inch thick, and it has like 100 holes in it. And you put the capsules in there, and the capsules, the opening, just half the capsule, and the opening is flush with the open end of the capsule. And then you could take this little plastic scraper, and you just move the powder that you want to fill the capsules with until you fill them up. And then you put the other half of the capsule on there, and now you've made capsules. So you could use it for whatever you want to make, like vitamin C if you want to buy that in bulk. Or I've never done it with vitamin C, but I kind of like yours. Actually, I do like yours.
Interestingly, by the way, as far as I can tell, black and white pepper have the same amount, roughly, of piperine. But white pepper can go stale, and black pepper does not.
Oh. Well, that's interesting. Okay. Because I like white pepper when I make cabbage soup, or, Chinese type of a soup. I use white pepper in that, and it's a little different. Okay, so black pepper's where it's at. Dr. Shealy and I'll be right back after these few short commercial announcements. Dr. Shealy, for a long time we've known that there are some benefits of green tea. And there's an article that I found that said green tea may be essential to conquering antibiotic resistant bacteria. So in England, there's some researchers who have discovered that antibiotic-resistant bacteria have become a greater focus among doctors and health-focused scientists in the recent years. However, researchers at the University of Surrey in England have found a secret weapon in the fight against these persistent microbes, and that is green tea. And according to their new study, I guess we call it a chemical, EGCG, a natural antioxidant commonly found in green tea, can help eliminate antibiotic-resistant bacteria. And they're saying that the Pseudomonas bacteria is a real problem, and it's becoming more antibiotic-resistant. But they're finding that green tea seems to be an assistant in combating bacteria that are resistant to antibiotics. So I guess that would be called a catalyst. So have you experienced, or have you used in the past green tea, or do you consume green tea? Because I do.
No, green tea has a greater amount of antioxidants than black tea.
Mm-hmm.
And it's much milder.
And I see images of green tea where it's actually green in color, like if you were to use mortar and pestle with the tea leaves when they're fresh. But when I buy green tea, it's always brown or black. So is there a difference? Is one cured, aged, processed?
I suspect it's the way in which it's dried, but I do not know.
Mm-hmm. When you consume green tea, what would you recommend for us in our class so that we can do it the way you do, Dr. Shealy?
Well, I mean, I buy it as a tea bag because it's so much easier.
That's what I do.
And then I like to put a teaspoon of honey in with it.
That's what I do. Okay. Yeah, natural honey from, actually the honey that we bought was from Arkansas many years ago.
Interestingly, one of my patients lives about 5 miles from me, and he has a bee farm, a honey farm, and I buy my honey from him because supposedly the closer it is to grown to you, the better it is as an allergy thing. In other words, it has the antigens that are in your environment.
Right. I didn't know of him. I would have bought it from him, but the closest we could find to that would not overheat the honey was in Arkansas. So, Dr. Shealy, over time, the honey that we have, and I bought a couple cases of it in mason jars, and the jar lids are tight, but over time, the honey crystallizes. Yeah. And what I do, and correct me if I'm wrong, I heat it in water. Like I'll take on a gas stove, I'll slowly heat water with the honey jar in the water, slowly heat it until it just, the crystals change into that liquid honey. That's what I do. But no, I don't heat it too hot because if you heat it too hot, you destroy the honey, right?
Yep.
And I saw a video on the internet about honey coming from China, and they would ship it in these 50.
I would just as soon eat Roundup.
Well, I'll tell you a story about that.
I don't trust China for anything, but especially for food.
Yeah. Well, so what they do when the honey comes over, it's in these 55-gallon or 50-gallon drums or barrels, steel barrels, and when they open them up, the honey's crystallized because it's gotten really cold, on the seas, between China and here in the United States. Many years ago, as a side story about China, we used to buy, when we lived in Virginia, at Sam's Club, they would have honey that was called Virginia honey, or Virginia brand honey. And there was this great leap of faith that Virginia brand honey sold at Sam's Club in Virginia was from Virginia. Well, I bought some, and back then we used white or glass coffee mugs. And I would make tea, and it would be this light tan-colored tea. And I would pour the honey in it, and the honey turned the tea black. So the tea, when you stirred in the honey from Virginia brands, from Sam's Club, literally turned the honey to what looked like black coffee color. Literally.
Sounds like what I'd expect from China.
That's exactly right. So I called Sam's. They said, call the company. I called Virginia honey, and they said, no. I said, oh, yeah, why don't you try some? You tell me what you think. They called me back, and they said, you're right. They had rail cars full of honey that they had to dispose of because it came from China. And when we come back, I'll tell you exactly what happened to the honey and why it did this and why they had to destroy all that honey. We'll be right back. Everyone all set? Cocked, locked, blissed? Hour number 2 of USA Prepares. Dr. Norman Shealy is with us. Website, normshealy.com, NORMSHEALY.com. NORM as in Norman, Shealy, SHEALY.com. Dr. Shealy, I mentioned honey, and what happened many years ago when we lived in Virginia a couple decades ago. The honey that I put from Virginia Brand's honey into my tea turned black, the color of black coffee black. So the tea, which was a light golden color, light tan color, in a clear glass or a tan or white coffee mug, literally would turn black just by adding the honey. And so I called Sam's Club, and they said to call the honey company. I called the honey company. They said, no, really, no. I said, oh, yeah, try it. So they did, and they called me back, and they said, you're absolutely right. And I asked them, I said, I want to know why. I want to know what it is, because I've got this stuff here, and I want to know what happened. I want to know what the risks are. And they told me that it came from China, and the Chinese in the field would gather the honey, and they'd put it in buckets, and they'd carry the buckets to, wherever they filled larger containers in China, and then they'd ship it to the United States. And they used galvanized pails, like we might have used on the farm back in the, 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. And now we use plastic pails, but they use galvanized, and the galvanizing material, which I believe is mostly zinc, mixed with the honey and contaminated the honey. So that's what happened. Now, forget the insecticides and the pesticides and all the rest of the pollution that could be in the honey. This was identified as the culprit in contaminating the honey. So, and would I have thought that Sam's Club, oh man, they would sell this, in larger containers? It's got to be tested. I mean, heck, it came from Sam's Club, right? And that's the absolute truth. And if it weren't true, I've said this maybe 3 or 4 times over the years, and if it weren't the truth, they would have been all over me with their lawyers, but they can't, because it is the truth.
Fascinating about this is when the founder of Walmart was still alive, he used to push the idea of made in America. Once he passed, everything's made in China. He
did. And one of our instructors was right out of high school, worked for Walmart, and spent 20 years there. And he went down to Arkansas, and he was the guy responsible for, and this is maybe, 20 years ago, there were these little departments, or these little areas in Walmart, and they'd say, Made in USA, and it'd show like 7 people building light bulbs. And they'd say, bring back to America, or something like that. Bring jobs to America. They said, we got 7 guys working, building light bulbs. Is this great or what? And it failed. It failed because there wasn't enough interest, and probably because people want lower prices and inferior goods, and that's what we got. We got inferior goods, and now our landfills are filled with those kinds of things.
Well,
and now there's some products that are made in China that are, pretty good, and there's some products that are just unsatisfactory, unsafe, dangerous.
I personally don't want anything with a label of China. No.
I agree with you. But the problem is, Dr. Shealy, if you want to buy an American-made wrench, it's going to be tough. It's going to be really hard to find one, because even Craftsman is made in Japan or China or Taiwan. Craftsman.
Taiwan I would trust.
And that used to...
And Japan I would trust, but not China.
When we had a computer manufacturing company in Virginia, we would build computers assembling parts. And the best motherboards in the world were made in the United States. The best in the world. The second best were made in Japan. The third best were made in Taiwan. And the fourth best were made in China. And the Chinese weren't too good. I mean, they were substandard, in my opinion. Then the Americans went out of the motherboard. That'd be the main circuit board in the computer, on which all the other devices and peripherals were plugged in. The Americans went out of the business, so the best motherboards were made in Japan, then the second best Taiwan, and the third best China. And then the Japanese went out of it. They stopped making the motherboards for the most part. And so the best were Taiwan, and the second best were Chinese. And now it's China. It's all China. The Taiwanese are hardly making products in the computer world compared to China. So low price pushed the best products out of the marketplace. And that's called, there's a law called Gresham's Law, and it has to do with money. And Gresham's Law states that inferior money will push out good money, meaning Federal Reserve notes, inferior representations of real money, gold and silver, push out gold and silver. And it's true. And the same thing is true for products. You get cheap, junky products, and they push out the good products. So you see these Asian cars that are inferior. Not all of them, some of them are pretty good. But for the most part, there's some low-end Asian cars that they're dominating the highways now because they're inexpensive. So the cheap products are pushing out the good products. And one example is there was a car company that manufactured cars overseas, And they said, look, we don't need to put as many roller bearings in our front wheel bearings because we're not going to go over 80 miles an hour. So we don't need to put such good bearings in there. So we'll use the cheap ones. And that's what happens. That's literally what happens. Randy in Texas, welcome. You're on with Dr. Norm Shealy.
Oh, good morning, gentlemen. How are y'all doing?
Wonderful.
Very well.
What's up?
I just want to talk about something about the cell phone radiation. Now, and I've been thinking about this, and this just kind of bothers me. I definitely understand taking a cell phone, putting it up to your head. That's a bad thing. And doing away with that. But how much is that really helping me with the danger, with the fact that we have all the cell phone towers around throughout the country? We have Wi-Fi devices just about in every house, stores, hospitals. So I guess my question is by me not using the cell phone, how much is that really helping me?
I would say 50 to 75%.
Okay.
Compared to having it next to your brain.
Okay.
We know that the incidence of malignant brain tumors is at least doubled with people who frequently use a cell phone. And we've known this for 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
So you do the best you can because you can't put yourself inside a Faraday cage and walk around with it to keep yourself from getting the radio waves and other such things.
Okay.
Randy, I've got a comment that you can think about and we can discuss. Did you ever, I assume you're a middle-aged guy, is that about right?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. And I'd like to think I am, but I'm a little past that. But when I was younger in the 1950s and the 1960s, I made a radio. And in order to receive the radio signal from the big old radio stations, I had to have an antenna. I'd strung a piece of wire between two trees with an insulator. Did you ever do that?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, the reason I'm mentioning that is the signal was weak. So the reason that you had a big, long antenna is so that you could capture this weak signal. There was more antenna wire in the air, 50 to 75 or 100 feet of this wire to capture that signal. And that's what you had to do. But you don't have to do that with a cell phone, do you?
No.
The antenna is like an inch long inside the metal case, right?
That's correct.
And if you were thinking about building an antenna, you'd never build one inside a metal box or a partially enclosed metal box or a box that had just two sides that were metal. You'd never do that because you'd say, I'd be attenuating the signal and I wouldn't get the full signal, so I wouldn't do that. All right, so what I'm saying is we had 50,000 watt radio stations, 50,000 watts, and we would have antenna strung between, 2 points, insulated so we get the signal. But we don't have to do that. So we're talking about so powerful a signal in our hand, and we'd put that up to our head, actually to our ear. And there's a straight shot right through the ear to the brain.
Mm-hmm.
Or a straight shot right from the cell phone to a person's breast or testicles, depending on whether you put it in your front pocket or your bra pocket. But why would we do that? Now, here's another way of looking at this, Randy. So you know that if you take a hot dog, if, God forbid, you eat one, or a cup of water, and you put it in a microwave oven, and you hit the start button, you can cook it in about a minute.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a little bit longer for that hot dog, maybe. Okay. Because the microwaves work best at 2.4 gigahertz when there is water in whatever it is you're trying to heat up. Because the molecules rub together. Like if you're cold in the winter and you rub your hands together, the friction of one hand against the other warms the hands up. It's the friction, okay? So the molecules in the water or the hot dog rub against each other, vibrate, and they create heat. That's how it works. All right, so if your microwave oven is 1,000 watts and you can cook it in a minute, if you had a way of turning down the power level, and you say, well, let's turn it down from like 1,000 at the maximum all the way down to 1, which would be the minimum power level, You know you could still cook that hot dog or heat that water. It would just take longer, right?
Correct.
You know that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you know that for a fact. Okay, so you've got this microwave oven. It's just handheld, and you're putting it next to your brain. I think it's absolutely crazy.
But that's not how they're marketed. People don't understand that the cell phone is the exact same technology as a microwave oven.
Correct.
They don't. Very few people talk about that.
We do all the time.
I know you do. There's a few other shows that talk about it, but the vast majority of people don't realize that it's the same technology. And I remember the first time I realized that was like, I guess it was about 20 years ago. I was in an office, and I was my laptop was connected to a Wi-Fi router, and every time they turned on the microwave, I lost the Wi-Fi signal.
Oh dear,
Randy, we're going into a break. Would you mind holding? We haven't started yet, but would you mind holding through the break? What you're bringing to light is so important. It's worthy of a much longer discussion. Can you stay with us?
Sure.
Okay. And I'm going to share with you something that you're bringing up that a dear friend of mine and senior instructor, Bert Bertonis, has determined in California. He's a radio frequency engineer. That's what he does. He's a designer, a patent holder in the RF world, microwave world as well. Randy's in Texas, and we're talking about cell phone radiation. Dr. Norman Shealy is with us. And I wanted to share this information with you. This is information that I know the researcher who did this. I worked with him side by side. I haven't talked about it, but I was involved in microwave technology back in 1980, satellite communications. I've mentioned that part, but I really haven't talked about how deeply I was involved in it. But here's part of the rest of the story. So, Bert Bertonis is a radio frequency engineer. He's a degreed engineer. He's got his master's degree. He consults for some of the largest companies in the world, and he solves their problems. When they get stuck, they call him up, and then he solves the problem with technology. And if they get stumped, they call him, and he fixes their problems. I'm talking about the biggest companies in the world. And so back in the 1980s, he and another guy and I were interested in replacing cable TV cable. And we figured out how to do it. And what would happen is we would just transmit the signal from a mountaintop or high elevation. We could transmit a frequency that could send cable TV signals over the air rather than through the typical cable. So you didn't have to have your cable guy show up and hook up the cable. But in order to do that, we need to find out how much microwave radiation was in the air. So Bert went on top of a mountain in Silicon Valley, and he looked down, and it's a valley. So there's a mountain above it, and he looked down, and he brought up his instrumentation, and he measured how much microwave radiation there was in the valley. And he found out that from 6 o'clock or so to 8 o'clock in the morning, there was a peak. And then it would dip, and then around noon there was a peak. And then it would dip, and then around 6 to 8 in the evening it would dip. And so what's going on? Why are these peaks and valleys in microwave background radiation? Well, we figured it out. Actually, he figured it out, and it was breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So these peaks corresponded to people just hitting the start button on their microwaves in the morning, microwave ovens, and at noon and at dinner time. So there were these peaks. So the signal that he would have to generate with his transmitter would have to overcome the background microwave radiation in Silicon Valley. And then he went up a couple years later and looked at it again, and there were no peaks and valleys. It was just the peaks, what were the peaks became the norm. So now microwave ovens were so pervasive that there was so much electromagnetic radiation in the air that it was high all the time. That's what we know about microwaves. So to put an exclamation point on what you're saying, Randy, yes, it's everywhere. And it's the sum of all of these microwave devices. And we have stupid people everywhere in positions of authority who are putting more and more and more of these things in the school systems. And the children are riding the school buses, and the school buses are now microwave ovens because except for the windows, there's metal on all sides, front, back, top, bottom, left, right, except for the windows. So there's a windowed microwave oven school bus. And there are probably 30, 40, or 50 of those cell phones all cooking everybody in the school bus at the same time. And the same happens on trailways and, tour buses, cars,
and
airplanes. It's horrible. And you can't fix it. I've tried. I've gone before the Laclede Electric Cooperative GDP, and I said, smart meters cause cancer. We need to stop them now. And they laughed at me. Do you think we can't fix it? I was up on stage 4 times in 5 years trying to get people to lower their electric bills and stop this electromagnetic radiation, but they're not interested. We are outnumbered, outgunned, surrounded on all sides and the top and bottom by morons. They're illiterate. They're ignorant. And there's too many of them for us to deal with.
And they want more and more of this kind of technology. And just like the 5G, if you just halfway look at the data, it's bad. And people just don't care. They want what they want when they want it, and they want it now.
Yeah, we need to call that the Harry and Meghan syndrome. Please stay with us, Randy, and we've got Charles in Ohio standing by. I'd like to flesh this out a little bit more with Dr. Shealy's thoughts. We'll be right back. Randy's with us in Texas. Dr. Norman Shealy's with us. Dr. Shealy, do you have any comments about 5G? And wow, we can download a whole movie in 5 minutes with 5G. I mean, that's what it's being touted for.
I want to move off the planet. That's my comment.
Okay. Randy, let me share with you and Dr. Shealy in our class something. I'm going to be very careful how I say this, so you have to read between the lines. So we were at our company was at a convention, a satellite communications convention, and this was the biggest one probably in the world at that time, and we were an exhibitor. And we had a really good satellite receiver. I mean, it was rock solid, it was stable, and it was the best value. There was no receiver that could compete with it in terms of price and performance. Nothing. And we had an antenna out in the parking lot. So all these big dish antennas were all focused the same direction. They're out in the parking lot, 10 and 12, and maybe even a little larger antennas, and they're all focused on the satellite. And but we didn't own the satellite antenna. We partnered with another company. They provided the antenna, and they wanted to see a good picture from their antenna, and so did we. So they owned the antenna, and we owned the receiver, and we were selling a receiver. And when people came to look at the picture on our screen, our television screen, they'd say, wow, that's a really good picture. What kind of antenna do you have? We say, well, that's the one in the parking lot. We take them out there and show them. So it was a combination of a good antenna and a good picture and a good receiver. Well, what happened was there were long cables that ran across from out in the parking lot all the way to the inside of the convention hall. And we were gaining so much traction because people loved our price-performance ratio that our competitors decided to disconnect the cable in between the receiver and the antenna. There's hundreds of feet of cable. So we had, cable connections where you just plug the cables in and make them longer. Well, kind of like extension cords where you plug in, multiple extension cords. Well, what happened was, we'd be having a presentation where lots of people wanted to buy our receivers, and then the signal would go off the air because one of our competitors would disconnect our signal by disconnecting the cable. And we caught them, and we couldn't stop them. Well, so what we did was we fabricated a really quick microwave transmitter. It only took us a couple minutes to do it. And we aimed it at their antenna, and they went off the air. So we showed them how it works. This is how you play the game. Fine. Okay, no problem. But they couldn't find out where the signal was coming from. We could turn it on and off and whenever we wanted. Imagine that. What I'm telling you is this stuff is strong and it's powerful. And it's dangerous. And it's everywhere. And the GDP want more of it. They want Echo. They want Alexa. They want to be able to turn their lights up and on and off and lower and the brightness. Look, it's too hard to get up off that sofa or lazy boy or wherever they are.
Let me tell you a quick story about that. For Christmas, I went over to my crazy sister-in-law's, and I'm sitting there in the chair, and they were talking, and they were like, "Are y'all a little warm in here? Well, let me turn it down." Now we're in the same room. I'm looking at the thermostat. The thermostat's like 5 feet away from me, and she gets her phone out. She gets her iPhone out and contacts the thermostat to turn it down. And I'm like, "Hey, why don't you just get up and turn it down? It's 5 feet away."
You can't fix stupidity.
It's sad. It's really sad. And it's worse than that because now pretty much most products that you would think could never be connected to a cell phone app are being connected. Well, you can have your tabletop kitchen mixer or your oven or your refrigerator. And people are saying, yeah, but you don't understand. See, what we can do is from work, we can change the temperature of our refrigerator. I got to tell you, class, I don't think I've changed the temperature of a refrigerator more than 3 times in 15 years. There's a little dial to do that. You open the door and you turn this little knob. It has a rating from maybe 0, which is off, to maybe 7 or 8 or 9 or 10. And you just turn it a little more or a little less. It's real easy. Real easy.
I just got rid of a refrigerator because it would no longer cool properly at normal. It only would defrost or freeze.
Ah. Okay. Well, okay. There's a, is that the one that was in your kitchen, Dr. Shealy, that black one?
Yeah, I have a new one now.
Okay. All right. Well, we can talk about refrigeration another day. But, Randy, the points that you're bringing up are very valid, and there are so many stupid people. I've even been in a medical office where people say, it's the coolest thing. I've got one of those Echoes or Alexas, and it's great. But it's a little creepy because, well, we were talking about a thing, and then we go to our computer, and now we have advertisements for the thing on our computer, and we didn't search for them. We just talked about them in the kitchen.
And they don't realize that that's a problem.
Right. And here's another problem. The GDP who own electric cars, they think, they're really cool. They go 100 miles. Well, what if you want to go 102 miles? You push it the rest of the way? Or, what do you do? Well, here's another thought. When those electric motors that are at the wheels of these electric cars, they generate an enormous amount of electromagnetic radiation. And if you want to prove it, just take a tri-field meter. I have one right here in the studio on the desk. If you go to your refrigerator and the part in the bottom where your refrigerator has the vents for letting air cool the condenser, the coils.
Mm-hmm.
If you put it down there, there's a compressor. It's completely sealed in a 100% enclosed metal box. Well, you put your tri-field meter in there, you won't believe the electromagnetic radiation comes from that. Or if you take the tri-field meter and you put it in a car under the dashboard or on top of the dashboard or in front of the dashboard, and you just turn the ignition switch to start and you run the engine, you won't believe it. It'll peg the meter. So you are bathing in electromagnetic radiation in your car already, and it doesn't have to be brand new. The newer, the more. The electric vehicles, I'm sure, are out of control with electromagnetic radiation. I'm sure of it. I don't have one. I haven't tested, but I'm certain of it because it's all electronic and computer controlled. You take a tri-field meter and put it next to your computer, same thing. Now, I've got computers. I've got 3 of them running right here in the studio, but I can't reach them. I have them on 15-foot cables. 15-foot USB cables and extension cables for the video. I cannot reach the computers.
So your point is the further away they are, the better.
Right. I can't even reach the monitors. Can you imagine that? I can't reach the monitors because what I've done is I've taken a piece of plywood and put it on a nice desk. And because the desk wasn't deep enough, it was only like 30-something inches deep, not deep enough. I want it farther away. So I cannot reach. There's 3 monitors in front of me right now. I can't reach any of them.
Okay.
So the monitors have electromagnetic radiation. So do the computers. So does everything. Even my old, 1970s model Technics by Panasonic AM/FM stereo receiver model SA-80, which is allegedly 80 watts. Maybe it's a wish, but I don't think it's 80 watts. Maybe it's 40 watts RMS. But I've got one of those. You hit the start button on that, and man, does it wind up the electromagnetic radiation because it has transformers in it. So to make your point, Randy, we are surrounded, and there's only one thing I can think of that you can do until Elon Musk has his way and puts another 20,000 satellites in space for 5G. Up until that point, distance is your friend. But when he does that, when he puts those satellites up there, there's no getting away from it. It's going to come right through your roof, even if you have a metal roof. I thought I was doing something really cool. I bought brass screen for our windows to replace the nylon screens, for insects, to keep them on the other side of the windows.
Mm-hmm.
I bought brass to replace it. It was really expensive. Used, new old stock, probably from the 1930s and 1940s. I got it. But that's not enough now. Not when he puts the satellites in space, because they'll come right through the roof. These people are dangerous. Any other comments, Randy? You brought some really good points to the fore, and we've got Charles and Ken on hold.
Just a quick thing. What would be a good day on the show to call in to ask a question about a tractor maintenance issue?
Friday.
Friday?
Friday.
Okay.
Friday. What I've done is Mondays is Dr. Shealy. Tuesdays is Rich Sheben. Wednesdays is Gwyneth. Thursdays is Ricky Rocket. And then Fridays would be, I do an hour of the book, my tips, and usually have another instructor, but not necessarily. So Fridays.
Okay. Excellent. I'll call back.
And I'll
then.
give you. And one of the things that I like to do, and if you notice, you've been on for 31 minutes 48 seconds. I like to give complete answers, and I don't like to do rapid fire point counterpoint. I want to make sure that we cover it clearly, if we can.
Absolutely. Hey, thanks
Randy,
a lot, gentlemen. Y'all have a great afternoon.
See you Friday. Hour number 2 would be the best.
Good. Hour 2? Will do.
Yes. Thank you, Randy.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Charles in Ohio, then Ken.
Good morning, gentlemen. It's nice to have an opportunity to speak to both of you.
Charles is an instructor in Ohio. Welcome. I got your email. Thanks so much.
Oh, well.
How can we help you?
I'm just interested in, like many people and people who listen to your program, I'm just trying to live the longest, best life I can. And to do that, I incorporate testing in my health regime. And the best tests for me are the cheapest ones. And I do my blood pressure quite a bit. And the pulse rate and others. But one of the cheaper, easier ones is a life cycle at the facility I go to has a health test on it, along with the other modes at hills, mountains, intervals. And the health test, not having access to the instructions for the cycle, it was kind of hard for me to get, but you get on it and you pedal, and it gives you your health age in years. And something else I've been working on here was, and this relates to a stupid 50 sci-fi movie, they mentioned that the heart rate of mammals is kind of equal. So like the smaller animals have elevated rates and like man has, but basically it came down to we generally have the same amount of heartbeats in a lifetime. But anyway, my question is, I just wonder how accurate the life cycle is number one, and I have an observation that I've been able to reduce my heart rate.
How low?
Oh, I just dropped it down from like 75 down to 60 or 65, in between that area.
Well, stay till after the break because I have a few comments to make.
Okay. There you go. We're going to find out what Dr. Shealy thinks about the beats per second of the heart in humans, and then we'll get to you, Ken, with 5G. Shealy.com if you want to buy your vitamins, minerals, and supplements, or his books. That's the place, normshealy.com. Charles in Ohio had a question about heart rate. Dr. Shealy, your response, please.
Well, the average, for the average healthy adult, is somewhere between 65 and 70. Now, all of us, under significant physical exercise, will have it go up. And when I exercise, for instance, in the morning, my pulse at rest is normally 58 to 60. But when I exercise, I get it up to about 125 and occasionally 130 during the exercise itself. Now, if you are overweight, it's likely to be higher. If you're inactive and don't do regular exercise, it's likely to be higher. When it gets above 80 at rest, something's wrong. In general, the greatest of athletes, marathon runners who are really in top shape, may have a resting blood pulse about 42, let's say. That's low. And a normal person who's not in top athletic shape, getting down to 40 is worrisome. So there is that kind of range, and fever or hot temperature around you and stress in general can raise the pulse.
I just took mine, just as you were saying that, Dr. Shealy. My heart rate is at 60 right at the moment, oxygenation at 99%.
Right, and that's about what I consider healthy for someone our age. Well, your age, I am. I'm 20-some-odd years older, but still.
Okay. Okay, Charles, anything else? I've got Ken holding in West Virginia.
Absolutely, and I apologize to Ken, but I just like to say, you mentioned about the tri-field meter. One thing I always use is I like to listen to AM radio, among other things, for information. And when I do distant stations, you can tell when you pull up next to one of the smart cars or a large diesel truck with Wi-Fi, it will interfere with any of those signals, and you'll be able to see how that's used. And the other thing I use, I've been looking at the cardiorespiratory health, interesting information with that, and I've been trying to incorporate that if the doctor had anything to say, and then I'll let the other caller get in his call before the end of the program. And I thank you very much for speaking to me.
Dr. Shealy, any comments?
Well, no, I think the important thing is to stay healthy. If you stay healthy, your pulse is likely to range somewhere between 60 and 70 at rest.
Okay. And Charles in Ohio, you bring up a very good point. AM radio. If you want to know if there's electromagnetic radiation around you, just if you have an AM radio in the house, turn it on and sweep slowly across the dial. And when you hear static and hum and noises that are not normal for radio, that is electromagnetic radiation. That's what you're picking up in the AM band between, let's say, 640 kilohertz and 1,600 kilohertz, roughly. Very good point. Thanks so much, Charles.
Thank you.
Ken in West Virginia, welcome.
I must not have enunciated properly to the board off. This is Tim in West Virginia.
Oh, well, I saw Ken, and I thought, well, how about Tim? Yeah. Welcome, Tim.
I know I only have a few minutes, and I broached this subject recently on your show, probably a month or two ago. But I have three grandsons, and I watched Frosty the Snowman recently. Do you remember the show very well, Ben and Doc?
Yeah, you'll have to help me with it.
Okay, well, the point I was making on that is when he comes to life, when the hat lands on Frosty's head, he sings "Happy Birthday" to me a couple times in the cartoon. So I called up to toot my own horn. It has nothing to do with 5G, and it was just a call up to shout out to Dr. Shealy and how much he's meant to me and my health. Today is 2-year anniversary that I stopped those fags. Not being a homophobe, I'm talking about cigarettes.
Yeah, the term fag.
Dr. Shealy and the Shealy effect, because my lack and my concern of letting him down helped me over the hump, because boy did I suffer some DTs the first few days, but I just didn't want to claim I was a failure. I'm a Virgo and like to think I'm a winner, and not wanting to let Dr. Shealy down make me a 2-year winner today.
Unfortunately, I was able to hear him.
All right, let me recap for you, Dr. Shealy. Tim in West Virginia has called the farmhouse over the years. He's been on the air, and he's a wonderful person. Lives in the mountains of West Virginia. And he said that he wanted to stop smoking. And in England, cigarettes are called fags. You know, a different kind of fag in the United States, but they call them fags in England. And he did not want to let you down because he wanted to stop smoking. So he said that the Shealy effect helped him get through stopping smoking, because he did not want to let you down because you wanted him to stop smoking as well as everyone else.
Well, there's nothing like willpower, and using it is the greatest asset we have.
Yep, and he has used your bliss oils, as I remember.
That would help.
Yeah.
Yep.
Did I say it right, Tim? Was I close?
Yes, I still use this, and Dr. Shealy had me as part of his study on the PEMF. I use